Flock Nation, what is up? It is 5:04 Eastern in the evening on Wednesday, August 21st. We're just a couple days out from Baltimore's preseason finale in Green Bay. They are en route right now for joint practices with the Packers, the preseason finale on Saturday, and then we are under 1 week out from roster cuts, where the roster needs to get trimmed from 90 men to 53 men. Today's live stream is brought to you by my friends at BetUS. Welcome inside the channel. I'm Bobby Trosset, and as always, this is where I bring you Baltimore sports and beyond. We're going to take a look at some comments made by Tom Brady last weekend in terms of which team stacks up best against the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll examine those. We'll also examine the thought of potentially bringing back Dalvin Cook if we don't feel all that compelled with or intrigued by what the Ravens have at the back end of their running back room. We know that running back 1 and running back 2, at least for the immediate future, is set and is taken care of with Derrick Henry and Justice Hill. We wait for Keaton Mitchell to get himself right, get himself better. But the question becomes, is Owen Wright and or Rasheen Ali the answer in the meantime? We'll take a look at that and a number of other things as well coming up in today's episode. But we begin with, of course, Tom Brady's top 5 quarterbacks. We addressed this earlier in the week. And he had, of course, Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Burrow, and Rodgers. Those were his top 5. Was he baited into adding in Rodgers there? He did give 4. It's funny, like at this Fanatics conference, Fanatics Fest in New York City over the weekend, both Peyton Manning and Tom Brady gave their top 5 quarterbacks, but they were sort of like pressured into doing so, which seemed a little bit unnatural. But you get the point. Lamar was in his top 3. Mahomes, of course, is at the top. He went Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Burrow, and Rodgers. He's got an immense amount of respect. We know this for Lamar, for his game, for his abilities. And he should, because Lamar was pretty darn good in the opportunities that he got in head-to-head matchups with the GOAT. Now, to go to a specific question that Tom asked, I should say answered, Stephen A. asked over the weekend. Wanted to play this clip. We'll react to it on the other side.
One threat to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC is home.
I would say all those teams are going to be tough. I think it's still the Bills or the Bengals just because I think the quarterback play.
The Bills and the Bengals more than the Ravens?
They're right up there.
Okay.
But I would say, and they're exceptional. The Ravens have to, I think, be more successful in the postseason for me to feel like, okay, they're right there. The Bengals have made it to the Super Bowl. Okay. The Bills have been in championship games.
That's right. He's got a 3-1 record against Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, so Tom Brady says that the Bills and the Bengals more suited to go up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, wait a second now. Burrow has played in a Super Bowl and lost. And yes, Josh Allen has played in an AFC championship game and lost. Lamar Jackson has played in an AFC championship game and lost. The Ravens and Lamar Jackson should be in the conversation with the Bills and the Bengals in terms of who has the best chance to dethrone this upcoming season the back-to-back reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And for whatever reason, they don't meet the qualifications to be the media darlings. They don't meet the qualifications, or Lamar doesn't often meet the qualifications for the Nick Wrights of the world in terms of hot button QB rankings, where he feels like I'm going to leave Lamar, a 2-time MVP and the reigning league MVP, 1 vote away from unanimous, off the list. Certainly discredits Nick from a football standpoint. But Tom Brady thinks that the Bengals and the Bills are more well-suited because he hasn't consistently seen it from the Ravens in the postseason, which is fair in the sense that we have not seen the best version of Lamar over the last 6 years when they've appeared in the postseason, and we haven't seen the best version of the Baltimore Ravens over the last 6 seasons when they've had their chances in the postseason. The latter of those two being probably more notable. collectively as a team, as a coaching staff, we have not seen their best consistently in the postseason. So much so, while Lamar wasn't good enough in January at the bank in the AFC Championship game in a do-or-die playoff game with today's greatest quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, I put that more on the coaching staff. I put that more on the game plan, more on the abandonment of their calling card, of their bread and butter, of what they did better than anybody else in the league. And that was run it down your throat. And so when I think about which team, which player is best to lead his team to take down the Kansas City Chiefs and eliminate the chance of something that's never happened before getting done this upcoming season, which would be a three-peat for Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, Josh Allen and the Bills, and Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Those three should all be, I'm not talking about quarterback rankings right now. I'm talking about team rankings that are trying to go after today's Goliath. Right? Today's super team. That's how I see it. The Ravens, of course, see it as we're not even looking that far. We're looking at week 1 at Arrowhead Stadium, Thursday night football with the entire world watching. We don't see this as revenge. We don't see this as anything other than an opportunity to make a statement and kickstart the 2024 regular season. That's the only mindset that I want to hear about, because guess what? There is no revenge if you win. There is no revenge secured if you win in week 1. And to be honest with you, it's probably a double-edged sword. If you lose, the noise will be even louder about whether or not you're built to beat Kansas City. If you win, okay, great, but now you got to go do it in January, right? So it is somewhat of a double-edged sword. But the bottom line is the Ravens understand what's at stake on Thursday night, and they understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and it all starts on September 5th, right around the corner. Before we continue the conversation, a quick word from this episode's sponsor.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
Okay, so BetUS is offering a 125% deposit match on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. They've got the fastest payouts in the industry. You've got fast and easy deposit and withdrawal processes, 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year. They'll get 10% back on your net losses twice a year, and they'll even give you your very own personal account manager. You can click on the link that I have included in the description of this video below to get started today. You see the graphic that I have on the screen as well while you're at it. The over-under in terms of regular season wins for the Ravens listed at 10.5 right now on BetUS.com. So, look, they have a very difficult strength of schedule, among the most difficult in the entire league. It is a first-place schedule as well. And so that 10.5 number, think about it. Gamble responsibly, consider wisely. And again, BetUS is offering you a 125% deposit match on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. You can click on the link in the show notes below to get started today. Wanted to have a conversation that Sarah and I did and expand on it a little bit. And that conversation came earlier today during our Ravens lunch hour live stream over on the Vault. And we took a look at our 3 Ravens who are under the most pressure entering the 2024 regular season. And my number 3 is cornerback Marlon Humphrey. Marlon is coming off a season in which he performed below his standard. I think he'd be the first to tell you that, both from an availability standpoint and also performance-wise, statistically-wise. And if I'm Marlon, I'm looking at a room that's rejuvenated in the sense that you've got youth and Nate Wiggins. You've got a guy in a contract year in Brandon Stevens who, wow, what a breakout season he had in 2023. And then you've got a bunch of young dudes who are still trying to kind of make sure that they find themselves established in this league, and Jalen Armour Davis and Pepe Williams, right? And TJ Tampa is trying to establish himself and get himself fully healthy coming off the double hernia surgery from earlier this summer, the sports hernia. You've got Arthur Maulette, who's going to be scratching and clawing to get back in the lineup at some point in early October, you would think. And given some of the struggles in coverage from Marlon last year and his inability to stay healthy, at some point here in the future, I'm not talking about immediate future, but in the near future, Marlon might be looked at as a cap casualty by the front office. I'm not saying this year, I'm not saying next year, but that's probably sooner than later in terms of Marlon's been around for a while, and it's a lucrative contract. And so when I think about players who are under pressure, he may not come to mind first, but he was my number 3. And while we're at it, I will take your top 3 as well in the live chat. So let me know who your 3 most under pressure Baltimore Ravens are entering 2024. Number 2 for me, this one was easy, and that is Rashad Bateman. Now, some of you might come back and be like, well, wait a second here. Rashad's contract is so team friendly, so economical for the team, and so cheap, all things considered, when you compare it to the rest of the market at the wide receiver position, that how could he be under considerable pressure? I'm talking about fit. I'm talking about future. I'm talking about where his career trajectory is headed. That's what I'm talking about. He is under significant pressure because he hasn't yet proven that he can do it consistently in the NFL. Most of that has been due to unavailability. If he can stay healthy as he was for the majority of last year and be a key role player for this team, I'm not even asking him to sort of live up to his former first round status. I'm saying, hey, can he be a complementary piece to what we know is a high-powered offense led by Lamar, flanked by Derrick Henry, right? You've got Zay on the outside, or wherever he's asked to be. You've got the deepest tight end room in the entire league, a Pro Bowl fullback, perennial Pro Bowl fullback, and Pat Ricard. Can Bateman complement those pieces and be reliable and add to their deep ball game and be that vertical threat and help out with the intermediate game and be a reliable, solid pair of hands? Rashad Bateman's my number 2 most under pressure Baltimore Raven. And number 1 is number 79, Ronnie Stanley. Ronnie took a significant pay cut this offseason. If you were following along, you now know that his future in Baltimore is very uncertain. He is not under contract in Baltimore outside of 2024. So when you think about what this upcoming season means for Ronnie Stanley, it means everything. And quite frankly, this could be a career defining in the sense of how many years he has left. This could be a career defining season in terms of what is in the immediate future for Ronnie Stanley. And we know the importance his role plays within this offense. Miraculously, the Ravens were able to effectively pull off this tackle rotation that they did last year with Ronnie and McCary, Fa'alele and Moses on the right side. And somehow, some way, they made it happen. But how sustainable is that for a second consecutive season? I'm not saying they're even going to opt in that direction. Perhaps they do so right out of the gate with McCary and Rosengarten on the right-hand side. But what I am saying is that Ronnie knows it. You and I know it. And I'm sure the Ravens front office knows it. This is a big year for Ronnie Stanley. And everything he does will be put under the microscope. I'm not saying he's returning or needs to return to 2019 form, but damn it, if he can get anywhere within that realm, half of what he was in 2019, which was a historic season at the left tackle position, the Ravens will be better for it. If you're interested in seeing Sarah's list, this is how she had it all shaped out. Adafe Owe and a David Ajabo she put as a duo from an outside linebacker pass rush standpoint at 3. Lamar she had 2. And Harbaugh she had at 1 with an honorable mention of Roger Rosengarten. My honorable mention, Brandon Stevens. I mentioned this a couple minutes ago. Brandon is now in a contract year. He's coming off a breakout year, and it is a deep cornerback room. I thought he was deserving of an honorable mention. Let's see what you guys think in the live chat. Top 3. Who are your top 3 most under pressure Ravens entering 2024? Garnett, what's up, brother? He says, Bobby, your number 1 is not 1, and here's why. Ronnie is going to get paid the moment he has free agency. The NFL will always think they can salvage a career, especially a left tackle. No question. There's no question he is one of the most valuable positions in the entire NFL, but I'm strictly speaking to this from a Ravens lens, from a Ravens perspective. And so while the trajectory of his career is one conversation, I'm talking about like, this is a former first-round pick. This is a former big-time investment that the Ravens made several years ago. And when you think about the history of the position in Baltimore, I would have to think one of Ronnie's lofty goals would be to stick with the same organization his entire career. And if that's the case, I just view him and his impact either uptick or downtick in terms of what it could mean for the offense as being extremely, extremely pivotal. And for that, I felt like he was worthy of being number 1. It's good. It's good stuff, though, Garn. I totally know where your thinking is. Sebastian says that Ronnie earned all that pressure from inconsistent play last year and the injuries. Oh my gosh, what is the name of your channel? PDA something, or I'm not even going to try. PDA. Let's go with PDA, Public Display of Affection. He's got 3. Ajabo, Bateman, and Zach Orr. See, here's the thing. Here's why I didn't go with Ajabo or Zach Orr. This is interesting. In Zach's case, that to me is pretty easy. While any coordinator, any first-year coordinator will be under great scrutiny, as Mike McDonald was a couple years ago, and we all remember Rex Ryan's treatment of him on ESPN after one of the first games he's ever called at the NFL level. It was a bloodbath. And while that will be the case for anyone, particularly when you're trying to fill the shoes of one of the great young minds in Mike Mack, who had a bunch of different opportunities to take an interview for head coaching positions throughout the league. I just think as a first-year defensive coordinator, you are given grace. Maybe not in the media from a sports talk standpoint, but you are given some grace. And so I wasn't willing to throw Zach into that top 3 category. I don't think he's far behind because of what the Ravens' standard is when it comes to defense. But I wasn't willing to sneak him in to my top 3. It just didn't feel quite right. What's up, Lance? You have Adafe, Ajabo. Oh, you're saying Owe is your most under pressure and Ajabo was a failed project. Oh, and just to finish that thought on Ajabo, maybe this is just my definition of pressure, but it was hard for me to put Ajabo in the top 3 because we have no idea what he is at the NFL level. we've seen flashes, and we've known that if it weren't for the Achilles tear at his Michigan Pro Day, then he would have been a bona fide first-round talent, and the Ravens ended up taking him in the second. But we have no clue whether or not the ACL on top of the Achilles is going to derail this guy's career. We have no clue. Great start for him in the second preseason game after he was medically cleared. But I can't sit here and confidently tell you that Ajabo is going to be a difference maker for you this year. And so because of that, I can't do it. Owe, we've seen it. We've seen flashes. Look at his rookie season. This is his best season yet. Well, maybe it rivaled last year for him. He took a big step forward last year. But I can't go there with Ajabo because of that. Manuel, what's up, brother? You have Rashad, Stanley, and Owe in your top three. Evan has Marlowe, Lamar, and Stanley. Chef Trez, thank you for being on time. I noticed that you were tapping in early and often. We love that. Love messing with you as well. Chef writes, I understand Marlon being on the under pressure list, but not a 3 spot. Stanley, Harbs, Lamar, Bate, Marlowe. Okay. I hear you. Jeremy says that Matabike, given the contract, could be argued onto that list. Justin got a big-time extension after being tagged last year. I don't know, though. Because while you're always going to be under pressure after being paid, one, at defensive end, it's not magnified the way that, or you're not under the microscope the way you are a quarterback. And he's coming off he's coming off a career, like a historic season. He's coming off an all-pro season. Like a historic to Baltimore all-pro kind of season. So I have a hard time being like, oh, you have to back that up. Of course, we want him to back that up. But I don't think there's like this expectation collectively within the fan base, universally, that he has to back that up and that he will back that up. And if he doesn't, we're going to be pointing the finger at him. Like, to me, it would be pretty abnormal to do what he did last year again and stack it like Aaron Donald seemed to do every single year. Let's have the Dalvin Cook conversation. I'm ready for it. Are you? Hope so. Dalvin Cook spent part of last year with Baltimore's practice squad. He was called up a time or two. And the reason why his name comes up is because some of you within the fan base on Twitter that I've seen are a little bit concerned about the depth at running back. I think those are valid concerns. Derek is now 30. New team, new season, another year, no signs of slowing down. But you always have to have an emergency plan in place, a contingency plan. Justice Hill will serve as running back 2 behind Derek in the meantime while Keaton Mitchell fights his way back from last year's ACL tear. And then, of course, the conversation that will be relevant going into the preseason finale will be RB3. And if there is a legitimate battle and an open competition between undrafted rookie from last year, Owen Wright, and this year's drafted rookie in the 5th round in Rasheen Ali. To me, Owen, it's his job to lose in terms of what he's put on tape in preseason and what we've read and heard about him coming out of training camp and the entire offseason program. But when the Dalvin Cook conversation comes up, I hear what some of you are saying. The thing is, I don't think there needs to be any urgency. I don't really think there needs any. I would like to have him in the building, but there's no urgency. Because if Dalvin was available down the stretch last year, there's probably a pretty darn good chance that he'll be available down the stretch this upcoming season. So perhaps you just stay in touch with him. And he's scratching and clawing and waiting to get the call. He just posted these videos to Twitter within the last 48 hours. The eye test tells you, oh my Lord, he is still in great shape. Footwork, getting after it. still totally yoked and looking lean. But Dalvin Cook, not sure he's an answer at this point in his career, but he could be somebody that helps you out in a pinch. And again, I expect him to be available should the Ravens need him. Knock on wood. You hope that's not the case at any point throughout this upcoming season. I tell you what, the 2024 Orioles, this came to my attention earlier today when they were walked off on by the New York Mets. And the second half stretch has been underwhelming, to say the very least. The 2024 Orioles are the 2021 Ravens. They are injury riddled, and they are holding on for dear life. The Orioles began the season 42-22. They were as hot as any team in recent memory. Straight up, they've been a 500 team since that meteoric start. And of course, the 2021 Ravens, as we all remember, were decimated by injuries. And the Orioles pitching staff is exactly like that this year. Zach Eflin, the latest victim to go down. He is on the 15-day injured list with shoulder inflammation. We know Tyler Wells is down. We know that Grayson Rodriguez is down. We know that Kyle Bradish is down. We know that Felix Bautista has been down. God forbid, everybody's got to protect Corbin Burnes. The baseball gods have to protect Corbin Burnes because it has been nothing short of a depleted onslaught in recent months for the Baltimore Orioles. And the fact that they are still in the fight, even though they're gasping for air right now, speaks to what they do have in-house. But it's been a rough go for the O's, and today was certainly rough as well. And a trend that we've seen form this year for the O's compared to last year, in which they were dominant in, is close games. Jacob Calvin-Meyer tallied them up. The record in one-run games last year was a dominant 30-16. 30 wins to 16 losses in one run, high leverage, down to the wire games. This season, they're 12-16, and it's August 21st. That is jarring. That's the type of stuff that you can't look past. And sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles, but we all know it this year. The Orioles have an issue at closer. They can't close out games consistently, and they really only have themselves to blame. Craig Kimbrell is a Hall of Famer. He will be in Cooperstown one day, and it will be deserving. He showed you what he was last year in the postseason with Philadelphia. He has shown signs of that throughout this upcoming season. He's shown signs of that throughout this season in Baltimore. The fact that they really felt like he would be their guy remains to be one of the more perplexing decisions that Mike Elias and the Orioles front office have made. But honestly, when you think back to the 2021 Ravens and the 2024 Orioles, unfortunately, there are more parallels than you would like to see. But that's kind of where they're at right now. Sebastian weighing in on the O's chat. You know we love a good crossover this time of year, talking O's and Ravens. Man, Bobby, but next year with Bautista, Burnes, Bradish, Means, Rodriguez is going to be a nasty lineup, says Sebastian. True. Very true. That's all on paper, though. And you never know how guys recover from Tommy John surgery or any other procedure for that matter when it comes to the elbow, when it comes to the throwing arm. It is. And Means, we'll see what happens to Means. He's had several significant procedures, and he's getting up there in age. So that's a lofty list, I think, Sebastian. It's an optimistic way of looking at what it could look like next year's lineup. I don't know. That feels a little bit lofty. Tonight we have the third edition of the AFC North Roundtable, a new YouTube weekly discussion show, debate type show that I'm a part of. Every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Eastern, I will represent the Ravens among a panel of all AFC North content creators. Here's a little glimpse of what you can expect.
Roundtable Sports Network brings you NFL divisional debate coverage on a weekly basis from your favorite content creators across YouTube, featuring the AFC East Roundtable live Monday and Wednesday evenings, the AFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST, the NFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST, the NFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST, the AFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST, the NFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST, the AFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST, the NFC East Roundtable live Thursdays at 6 p.m. EST. Roundtable Sports, real coverage from real fans.
Oh, man, I'm just singing to that song right now in the background. That NFL on Fox background music gets me fired up. The fact that we're coming up on 2 weeks out from the start of the NFL regular season. Here's where you can find it all. I'll do a quick little screen share. Just go to YouTube, type in AFC North Roundtable. Here's the new channel. We've already hit over 1,000 subscriptions, so that's cool. Preseason week 2 takeaways. Here are all the boys that I'll be going back and forth with. And again, here it is, AFC North Roundtable. Go check it out. I know you guys love to come out and start talking some shit. Cracks me up. You guys absolutely crack me up when you come out there and get after it for me. Check out the recently revamped Bobby Baltimore Discord server while you're here. It's a 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports. I do want to say thank you to a couple of my returning patrons who support my content, support my business through Patreon. It means a lot. I appreciate you both, Rich and Michael. Thank you, guys. If you're interested in doing the same, visit patreon.com/Bobby Trosset. You can learn more about that in the show notes below. But until tonight, in about 25 minutes from right now, I will catch up with you in just a bit on the AFC North Roundtable. Looking forward to the conversation. Looking forward to seeing you guys come out and represent. And I'll catch up with you then. Thank you to BetUS for sponsoring this episode and my entire channel all football season long. You can visit the show notes below to get started today. Later, guys.